Yes, mom, I'm going to the bus stop to catch a bus. Hope I get this job. She let out a weary sigh, answering yet another question asked by her mother. I told you, Wyan, to pursue medicine like your brother. If you had listened to me, you wouldn't be. She was cut off by Wyan. Mom, please, don't start again. I thought we are over this topic now, as it's been years since I clarified that I have different preferences and dreams. She whined due to her mother's incessant pestering on her not being a doctor like her brother. I'm getting late. I'll call you after the interview, she said, annoyance dripping down her tone. That was the only choice she had to escape from her mother's yet another session of how being a doctor is much better than being into business world. And as usual, it wouldn't end at least an hour. As she was about to disconnect the call, she heard her mother's words. Everything aside, don't hesitate to call me if you need anything. I'm still your mother. A small but genuine smile curved on Vian's lips. She hummed and hung up the call. She knows how to make me smile after angering me to my core. My mother. She chuckled, shaking her head. A mother who would ask you hundreds of questions, for whom only her children are the laziest and hopeless in the world, and the problem lies in their phones. According to her logic, phones should be burned down and it will automatically resolve all the problems, whether it's waking up early or headache or someone's accident or natural disaster. As Vian was about to put her phone in her handbag, a person collided with her. The sudden force made her stumble. Her phone slipped from her hands and struck the ground. Her grip on the bag loosened, which gave the person a good opportunity to snatch it away from her. You thief! She yelled and chased the thief, who ran away with her bag, not forgetting to pick her broken phone. Yeah, stop right there. She sprinted like an athlete, her heels clicking against the concrete path beneath. Turning around the corner, Vine halted, breathing heavily. She looked at the retreating back of the thief and looked around, searching for something to stop him. Her gaze fell on a boy who was skateboarding at the roadside. She walked over to him. Can I borrow your skateboard for a moment, please? Her tone filled with urgency as she requested the boy. He looked at her for a moment before giving her the board with a smile. Thank you so much. She took the board and walked a few steps ahead. Aiming it in the thief's direction, she rolled it on the ground. Within some seconds, the board collided with the thief's feet. He stumbled on his steps and fell on the ground. The bag from his hand flung in the air and landed on top of a black car. My bag, she whispered and motioned towards the car. At the same time, the driver sitting inside started it as the engine roared to life. Vine, panicking inside, strode forward and stood in front of it, spreading her arms wide. Stop, I need something. Her eyes met the confused eyes of the driver. The driver tilted his head, conversing with someone sitting in the back seat. Walking towards the back seat, she grabbed her purse from the car roof and knocked on the window to apologize for the inconvenience she caused. Hi, she greeted with a polite smile as the window rolled down, revealing a posh man, clad in a grey three-piece suit. But much to Vian's dismay, he showed a bundle of notes in front of her face. Take it and leave. His voice was soft and melodious, contrary to his arrogance-filled tone. Excuse me, her burrows frowned in perplexity. She felt slightly irritated by his behavior. You succeeded in getting 2 minutes of attention. Now take this money and leave. I have got no time to waste on you. His reply did nothing except intensifying the mounting rage inside her. Who does he think he is? Another rich spoiled brat who likes to flex his money? Take it, you greedy lady. He waved the money in front of her face, rolling his eyes, which triggered her even more. Vine unzipped her bag and took out a few bills. Adding them to the bundle of money, she shoved it back on his hand. Her movements were quick and harsh. This is my donation. Get your brain replaced. Older one is damaged under the baggage of your money. Saying so, Vine gave him a tight-lipped smile and left from there, mumbling a few curse words. What? The man whispered in shock and disbelief. He glanced between the money and her retreating bag, too speechless to say anything. Rude lady. Only I am beautiful enough to get this job. I will get this job. I'll make the most handsome bachelor fall for me, and then we'll get married and lead a happy life. Excuse me, you both look like witches. I am the most beautiful and deserving for this job. Vine squirmed on her seat, uncomfortable by the war going on between the girls sitting beside her. She glanced around looking at each and every girl who came for the interview like her, but unlike her, every girl was focusing on showing their skin or beauty by putting tons of makeup. Maybe they didn't know a job demands skills and sharp brain, which those clones lack at every portion in their cranium. Levian, she became animated hearing her name being called out. Pushing herself off the couch, she followed the elderly lady towards the scheduled cabin of the most demanding man. Good morning, sir. She greeted politely without looking at the man sitting in front of her. Morning, you? She lifted her head. Her eyes met a familiar pair of eyes. It didn't take her long to recognize him. You? What are you doing here? She gritted her teeth, controlling the urge to curse him out loud, that too on his face. I am the owner here, Park Jimin. And you? You were being very cool in the morning. Now who came all the way to my office following me? His face crippled with frustration as he voiced out those words with utter rudeness. Vine scoffed and glared at him, her hands clenching at her sides. Neither I wanted your attention in the morning, nor I came here following you. She air quoted, emphasizing the last two words. She pointed at the file in his hair and said, This is my resume. I came here for the job interview, but I guess someone jinxed my day that I had to see your face all over again. Jimin's lips parted at her indirect insult. He peered at her incredulously. You out. Get out now. He pointed at the door of his cabin. She rolled her eyes unaffected by the pointing daggers he threw at her. Oh, I am leaving. I'm not even interested in standing here and bearing your attitude. I don't even know why those girls outside is so crazy for this chicken. He's nowhere near Kim Sokjin. Clones. She mumbled under her breath, walking towards the door, and eventually left, closing the door behind. Jimin sat there with wide eyes and open mouth. Her words, though incoherent, reached his ears through the silent ambience of the cabin. It was a direct attack on his ego. The person who had girls head over heels for him, who was accustomed to the persistent attention of women, got insulted by a girl, that too in his own office. The way Vine looked at him or spoke to him, it was clear that she was not at all interested in him, and it gained his attention. He so wanted to know why she was not affected by his aura like other women out there. She was different. Additionally, her simplicity and boldness got more of his interest. He pressed the call bell to summon his assistant. Yes, Mr. Park. An elderly lady came inside, a warm and graceful smile dancing on her lips. Her lively presence brought a smile on his lips. Mrs. Kim, tell all the other candidates to leave. The interview is over now. Have you found my replacement? That means I can finally retire, go on a second honeymoon with my husband. She beamed with excitement. Jimin chuckled and nodded. Also, before leaving, give a call to Levi and that she's hired as my secretary. The next morning, Jimin entered inside his cabin and walked over to his desk. As he was about to sit on the chair, the door burst open. Startled, he fell on the floor. Good morning, Mr. Park. She greeted loudly, a wide grin plastered on her face, but she frowned seeing the empty cabin. Where did that chicken leave? I'm sure I saw him coming here. She murmured to herself, thinking there was no one except her. Hearing her words, Jimin raised his head behind the desk, glaring at her who was looking everywhere searching for him. Excuse me? Whom do you think you are calling chicken? Vian's eyes went round as she snapped her head in the direction of his voice and found his head peeping from the other side of the table. What are you doing on the floor? She stepped towards his table and placed the tray that she was holding all the while. I like to sit on the floor. You tell me, were you calling me a chicken? He pushed himself off the floor and dusted his clothes before settling down on the chair. She laughed nervously and shook her head. Here, Mr. Park, your morning coffee and snacks. She slid the tray towards him, a futile attempt to divert his attention. He looked at the tray and back at her face. Reclining back on the cushion of the chair, he crossed his arms on his chest. So, I'm sure you have many questions to ask. Won't you ask me why I hired you? He raised his eyebrow. A subtle smirk appeared on his lips. Is that even a question to ask? No doubt you are a jerk of a person, but you surely are a sharp-minded businessman. You must have sensed my working abilities, that's why you hired me. Her words once again left him tongue tied. Anyways, I'll come again to inform you about your schedule. Until then, enjoy your coffee. She gave him a tight-lipped smile, turned around, and strolled towards the door. One more thing, Mr. Park. Halting in the door, she twirled around to face him. He crooked his eyebrows, awaiting her to speak. I promise you will never regret hiring me. I am a very passionate and skilled person, but my former boss misbehaved me and called me names, thus I broke his jaw. I hope you understand my point. Jimin tilted his head, a look of amusement marring his features. Are you threatening me? She chuckled and shook her head. In order to get respect, we have to give respect. Let's just forget our first unfortunate meeting and forge a respectful professionalism between us. It will be beneficial for both of us as we will spend more than half of the day together. Giving him one last glance, she exited his cabin. Jimin looked at the door where she disappeared. Different thoughts clouded his mind. However, one thought remained at top. She is different. Enough. I'm a human, not your wardrobe. She glared at Jimin when he added one more shirt to the pile of clothes she was holding. Okay, I think this much is enough. Finally, now pay the bill and go to your home and let me go to mine. I'm exhausted and in a desperate need of sleep. She threw her head back, relieving a huge sigh. However, her relief vanished with his next words. I want to try on all of these. She snapped her head, almost breaking her neck. Are you kidding me? You will try on all of these, like all the hundreds of clothes you carelessly picked up? He shrugged his shoulder and walked towards the dressing room, gesturing her to follow him. Vance coughed and followed him, a scold to cover her face. You better pay me extra money for this. Extra money? Why? I think I'm paying you a decent amount to fulfill your job as my assistant. Yes, but it doesn't count in that work. Besides, the contract says you will pay me extra if you will make me work extra hours. Currently, it's 1 hour past my working hours. Jimin sighed in defeat. No matter how much he tries, he knows he can never win against her. Fine. Now hand over these clothes to me. How much more time? She whined as she was getting annoyed by his never ending shopping. Also, exertion was taking toll on her mind. Just a week and you are already tired. How will you work with me, Mr. Perfectionist? Oh, please, working is not boring like shopping, and I don't understand what kind of pleasure you feel by wasting so much money on clothes. She followed him towards the billing counter. Unlike earlier, this time he showed some generosity and shared the weight of the clothes. He chuckled, watching the sight of her angry face. She was different and full of surprises, and unknown to him, his heart started enjoying these surprises. Stop embarrassing me for God's sakes. I'm going to fill you up. Just stop rumbling. He mumbled up in his stomach, which was hell bent on embarrassing him. He skipped breakfast and kept it hungry. Thus, it took revenge by making weird sounds in front of his clients. When he was walking past Van's cabin, his gaze unknowingly peeped inside through the glass window. He frowned, seeing the sight of her distressed face. During the few weeks she had been working with him, he had always seen her beaming with joy and sometimes roasting his arrogance. Her troubled state and disappearance of smile did settle well with him. Why, just why did I buy so much romance book? She murmured with a pout, her gaze fixated on the diary in front of her. Jimin quietly sneaked closer to her desk, but much to his dismay, his stomach rumbled, catching Wan's attention. She lifted her gaze, meeting his eyes. You need something? She blinked her eyes, looking at his posture. His hands hung in the air, his leg froze in a walking position, and his stomach rumbling time and again. Soft rosy hue covered his cheeks due to embarrassment. A sheepish smile curved on his lips. Have you had your lunch? He ignored her stare and occupied his chair across her. One quickly closed her diary when he tried to sneak a peek. I think more than me, you need lunch. She chuckled, pointing at his stomach, which emitted yet another sound. I will. First tell me what happened. She sighed and reclined back on her chair, pondering whether she should tell him or not. Nothing, just some budget issues. I overspent my money and now struggling with shavings and all. Jimmy shook his head in helplessness. He thought there would be some big issue, and here He got worried over nothing. Let's go and have lunch. Don't worry, I'll pay. He quickly added when he saw her opening her mouth to protest. She smiled widely. Her eyes sparkled as she jolted up from her seat. Good idea, let's go quick. He chuckled, seeing her excitement. A warm feeling settled inside his heart, seeing her the smile back on her face. Was he missing her smile? What is up with you dragging me along for every other thing? For buying clothes or for regular checkup or in Rosarium, now grocery shopping? She whined, pushing the cart behind him. He royally ignored her, picking the needed items and putting them in the cart. She groaned, getting no response, and glared at his back. He turned around and handed her a paper. Stop cursing me and go and collect these items from there. He pointed at the vegetable counter. She gave him a pointed look. You better. I will. I will pay you for the every fucking second I'm making you work apart from your working schedule. Now go and do the work. She glared at him nevertheless, moved towards the vestibule counter to select the needed items. Potatoes, cucumbers, she pronounced, putting them in the cart one by one. Cabbage. She reached out to grab the cabbage. At the same time, another hand grabbed the same cabbage and snatched it from her. A breathy gasp escaped her lips, and she craned her neck to see the face of the cabbage snatcher. There stood a black, bulky man. His glaring eyes met once. Go away. I'll buy vegetables first. The man spat arrogantly, triggering Vian's nerves. She turned towards him completely with narrowed eyes. Why? Are you the owner here? She snatched the cabbage from his hand and put it in her cart. Girl, you are messing with the wrong person. Go away or you'll regret it. Vian chuckled mockingly and tilted her head. I swear in the end you will leave with regret and a bruised jaw if you try to mess with me. Hearing the commotion, Jimin walked near Vian and stood beside her. What happened, Vian? Is this man troubling you? Mr. Park, you stay away from this matter. Let me handle him. Go and do your work. When I dragged you here, thus it becomes my responsibility to protect you from these goons. Let me handle this situation. Mr. Park, I'm telling you it's not a good idea. She warned, but Jimin being Jimin ignored her and stood in front of the men. What's your pro? His words left unsaid as the sad man gave a blow on his jaw. Jimin stood on his position, lost his consciousness, and fell down on the tiled floor. One's eyes widened, witnessing his limp body on the floor. Her glare shifted to the smoking man in front of her. You. She twirled around and landed a flying kick on his face, breaking his nose. He groaned and held his bleeding nose. You deserve it, idiot. She crouched down to Jimin's level and tapped his cheek slightly. Mr. Park, open your eyes. I told you to stay away. I could have handled it. Open your eyes now, hey. She tapped his cheek, but he didn't budge even an inch. She was getting worried. You are under arrest for harassing an innocent man. Violet looked up and found cops surrounding her. Behind them stood the innocent man groaning in pain. She looked down at the unconscious Jimin and stood up. But I didn't do anything, this man. She broke my nose. The man cried out. Violet coughed in disbelief, seeing him acting all innocent. Miss, you have to come with us to the police station. Please wake him up and tell him to come to the police station as soon as possible. She requested to one of the staff members and glanced at Jimin one last time before following the cops outside.